The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Sty. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome back to the Hog Sty. I am obviously not Sean. I am Steve. Sean is out today, but we have something really special here for you. Because in case you've been living under a rock, we have a new rookie quarterback on the Washington Redskins, Dwayne Haskins. You might have heard of him. He's unintentionally stirred up a little bit of controversy here and there for things mostly out of his control. So what we really wanted to do was get somebody to come on the show and really talk about the X's and O's of his film, what he can do, what he can't do, and all of that. And fortunately, we found somebody. We found a really great guest, Zac Shomler from Strong Opinion Sports on YouTube. Now, in case you haven't watched Strong Opinion Sports, Zac does a really outstanding job of diving into details that you might have missed, that he knows. He's a former college quarterback. It's an outstanding show, and he gets into a lot of different quarterbacks, a lot of different teams, a lot of different things. Highly recommend you watch it. But Zac, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure, and happy to get into this.
All right, well, let's start off here. Obviously, this is the Dwayne Haskins segment here, so just give us a little bit about your general impressions of Dwayne Haskins' transition from college quarterback at Ohio State to the NFL.
I'll be honest, man. I'm really concerned about Dwayne Haskins. I think he's got some tools that could allow him to succeed, but he's doing a couple things that I'm really concerned about. I don't think he did a lot in college that translates well to the NFL, and we saw his first game against the Giants. I can list the things if you want. There's a lot of things he does that I go, ooh, he's clearly not ready yet, and he's got some bad habits that I hope he can break eventually, that he'll need to break in order to succeed long-term in the NFL.
Okay, well, yeah, let's start with the bad, because if you watch Zac's video on Dwayne, he's got 8 different points from the Giants game alone. So let's start off, the two that really concern me most. Number one, you said that he's slow at processing defenses. Now, that's something that, we get tons and tons of comments from Redskins fans on our site. That's kind of been a buzzword in the past few days, but nobody really knows what it means. And so could you please tell us what you saw in film that leads you to think that he's slow at processing defenses? And more importantly, tell the people what that means.
Yeah, there's a couple moments where he's got guys open, and he recognizes the fact that they're open far too late, where he'll make eye contact with the receiver. They're looking at each other, and by the time Haskins is ready to throw, it's too late and the window closes. Or he'll hit somebody, but it's way too late in the progression, and the guy gets tackled as he catches the ball rather than catching the ball in stride where he can turn upfield and get 10, 15 yards. There's a lot of times where he'll make the right decision just way too late, and that causes incompletions. Or sometimes, in fact, he doesn't even throw the ball. He'll recognize it, go, oh, crap, he'll run around, extend a play. And then there are even moments where he just hesitates, where there's a look on film where, again, he's just staring at this guy. They're looking at each other. The guy's open. Everything's lined up for Haskins. And on film, I go, what the heck's wrong? Why aren't you throwing the ball? And so that tells me Haskins is just not – either he hasn't mastered the offense well enough, or he's too slow and hasn't caught up the NFL speed yet, or both.
Well, I didn't see that in his college film at Ohio State. Is that something that you saw with your expertise at Ohio State that's just now magnified, in the NFL, or is this just new and he's a rookie and, hopefully it gets better?
Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. It's that he's been doing scout team for a couple weeks, and there's rumors that he hasn't got first team reps, which is fair enough. But yeah, the things he did in college were not things that translate well to the NFL. He was throwing to guys who were wide open. He was running a lot of screens. He was doing a lot of stuff that he wasn't making great anticipatory throws, which means he was throwing to guys after they were already wide open, rather than throwing to guys and throwing guys to open windows. There's a big difference in anticipation there. And a lot of his stuff in college, you go, that's a good throw, like that's 50 yards on a line. Congratulations, I'm happy for you. But the anticipation wasn't there. And that doesn't translate well to the NFL. That's why he's late now. I don't think he's ever built good habits. And I really honestly think he could have succeeded a lot. He would have benefited a lot more from having more time in college to develop and get into developing more anticipation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And we were all hesitating because that's disturbing to hear, obviously. The other thing that really, really disturbed me about what you said is it was your seventh point. You noticed that it looked like he was afraid to get hit. I can't tell you how much that bothers me just to hear that. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's a horrifying thing. And look, I made a point that he doesn't slide. And so a lot of people commented, well, he doesn't slide. Clearly he's not afraid to get hit. It's not a mental thing. It's not a thing in his head where he's looking at downfield and going, I'm scared to get hit. It's not a thing he's conscious of. But in his subconscious, as he looks downfield, he cowers away. It's an instinctive reaction. That's horrifying. A lot of quarterbacks, you either have it or you don't. Some guys step into pressure and make throws downfield. Some guys cower away. And it's not really something you can plan. It's not something you think of, or it's not planned out. It's just an instinctive reaction. And the fact that his instinctive reaction is to cower away from pressure to avoid getting hit when a pass rush is in his face, that's horrifying. And it's something that he could overcome, but if that's his instinct, that's really, really scary and does not bode well for Redskins fans, sadly to say.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
So question right quick then. The fact that he, in your opinion, that it may be a possibility, not saying that it is, but it may be a possibility that he's afraid to get hit. What does that mean moving forward for the Redskins? And more specifically, what does it mean for Haskins? If he ends up being the full-time starter, how does that affect passing plays, and how does that affect how he sees the field?
Yeah, well, what they got to do is slowly build his confidence. Run a lot of screen. If he does, in fact, play, right? Run a lot of screen passes, get the ball out of his hands quickly, get him more comfortable in the pocket, and then start introducing longer dropbacks, a 5-step drop, a 7-step drop, play action. But they got to get the ball out of his hands quickly and just get him comfortable and in rhythm, and then eventually introduce longer progression routes. They kind of threw him to the wolves against the Giants. They felt horrible for him. The guy was in a horrible situation. He was not set up to succeed. And I just think if they're going to do it with him, they have to slowly work him in, be very gentle, be very kind, get the ball out of his hand quickly, and put him in a position to better succeed than they did against the Giants.
Now, for those of you who haven't watched Strong Opinion Sports, I personally really learned a lot about what to look for in quarterbacking by listening to you. I'm not a quarterback. I was a DB in high school. So tell me about his technique. Because what I learned from you is basically if the body is in line, the feet are in line, the shoulders, you're pointed at your target, things are going to go well. And if everything's out of whack, it might not. So talk to us about technique-wise, what do you see in him?
Yeah, there's a weird, I feel horrible saying this, but there's a way the ball comes out of his hand is not very natural. It's basically when his feet are lined up and everything's perfect, he's great. When his feet are not perfect and they're a little bit off, he really struggles because the top half of his mechanics and motion can't make up for the bad feet and the inaccurate feet. Like a guy like Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott, I'm trying to think of a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, when their feet aren't perfect, have the upper body mechanics to make up for that. Dwayne Haskins' upper body mechanics are imperfect, and it caused him to be inaccurate when his feet aren't perfect. And so there's a throw against, it's early in the game, I think it might be his first throw, where he works all the way through his progression. He's inside against the Giants, then he works all the way to the outside to a comeback on the right side. And the ball is low and outside. It's not a very accurate throw because his feet are bad. And it happened multiple times where he had guys open on the perimeter, like 10 yards down on the sideline, where he threw the ball low into the ground or behind guys or a little bit late, whatever it is, because his upper body mechanics can't make up for the fact that his feet are bad. That's a real big concern. His elbow drops too low. He's got to have it up above his shoulder pads. There's a lot of upper body mechanics that can be fixed, but because they're wrong, they can't make up for it. It's not, I wouldn't even say bad feet, just if he doesn't have perfect feet, which you shouldn't have to have perfect feet in the NFL to throw the ball, but if he doesn't, he's in trouble because of his upper body mechanics having flaws.
Because I see Aaron Rodgers make throws like that about 20 times a game, it seems like, and he has no problem doing it.
Absolutely.
And Haskins looks like a big guy. He looks like he should be able to have a upper body strength no matter what his feet are doing.
Yeah, it's not upper body strength. It's the way that he releases the ball, right? It's often his elbow drops too low, and the way that literally the way the ball spins out of his hand is often kind of awkward. And I think literally if he sat in his room and flicked the ball to himself for like 3 hours a day, he'd get better with his release. But right now, there's some awkward uncomfortableness. And I know it's a very nitpicky, weird thing to talk about, but it's a real factor. The way the ball comes out of his hand is not perfect. And if you watch him compared to Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or even Baker Mayfield, the way the ball spins out of his fingers literally is not as, I don't think it's as good as other quarterbacks.
Classic Urban Meyer quarterback.
Now, one of the things I did like about him at Ohio State was that I thought he progressed through his reads really well. He could go from left to right on the field and progress through and kind of see. And I think that's a good side to his game. But I'm just an idiot, with a podcast. So am I right? Am I wrong? What are the good things that he does?
No, you're absolutely right. He's really good at recognizing coverages. That's what's lost in all this. He might be slow to progress through NFL defenses. I think it's a lack of reps, of preparation. I don't think he's been set up well to succeed. But it's not like a dude doesn't know how to play football. The dude knows how to read a defense. You saw in college a lot of times he'd recognize a great matchup. Against Michigan, he did this. There was a mesh concept where they had what that means is two guys crossed in the middle of the field, and Michigan was playing man coverage. He recognized that, took the great matchup, went for like a 30-yard touchdown pass on a 5-yard pass. He recognized my guy's going to beat this guy across the field. He's really good at recognizing matchups and understanding and identifying coverages. He's just slow at it. It's not a lost cause. I feel like everything I'm saying about Dwayne Haskins makes him sound like a horrible quarterback. It's never going to work. All I'm saying is the guy has flaws and needs to fix, but they are fixable problems.
Now, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, since we're actually already kind of running out of time, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to put on an offensive coordinator's hat right now and pretend you're, O'Connell, the offensive coordinator now for the Redskins. And I want you to say, all right, Haskins is going to be your starter. Design me a passing game, an offense that you think he can execute successfully in the NFL right now that would work for him, not just like the developing him for the future, but what could he do right now that could be like a 200-yard, 2-touchdown a game kind of offense that would work.
I would copy Sean Payton's offense in New Orleans. Get the ball out quick, run a lot of really well executed screens, which means you got to teach linemen how to do it properly, have good timing. But I think if you ran an offense the way Teddy Bridgewater runs, or the way Drew Brees does in New Orleans, hitting the ball out quick and rhythm, teaching him timing, it's going to require a lot of effort from Dwayne Haskins. I know I'm going to go on a tangent here. My worry about Haskins is he doesn't know how to be a professional yet. Is he asking enough questions? Is he engaged enough on the sidelines? If he's not, it doesn't matter what you do. He's not going to learn because he's not engaged in learning from the guys above him. He's got to ask questions for Colt McCoy. He's got to ask Case Keenum questions. But if he does that, and if you build an offense, I think similar to what the New Orleans Saints does, get the ball out quickly, get it in rhythm, I think that could work really well for him. What would not work is what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do and what the Cleveland Browns do, which is a lot of 7-step drops, a lot of play action. I don't think that'd be a realistic expectation for Dwayne Haskins. But if you get the ball out quickly and ran an offense the way the Saints do, I don't know how to define that in a better term than that. But watch Teddy Bridgewater. He could do that.
Okay. The other final, we're again, like Alex said, we're running out of time here, but one final thing. The other point, I thought that a good point that you made at the beginning of your video from earlier this week was that the Redskins play calling was really bizarre. And that's something all of us have noticed on this show. Jay Gruden, who's the former coach now, consistently abandoned the run at the drop of a hat. He did a lot of really weird things. And so is that something that really affected Haskins in the game and made him look worse than he was?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. Actually, when I said run a New Orleans Saints style offense, that's what the Saints do. They run the ball heavily, and they use the running game to open up the passing game. They bring numbers into the box, which lightens the numbers in the defensive backfield. I really think that running the ball is an important, necessary thing, especially for a young quarterback. And the fact that they threw Dwayne Haskins out there, they didn't run the ball for entire series at a time. It didn't work. It was very weird. There were moments where they ran the ball all entire possession and then just abandoned the run. And not having a balance of running and passing the ball is not going to work for Dwayne Haskins. It's a horrible plan, and I think he was not set up to succeed at all.
Well, let's hope that Bill Callahan can do a better job than Jay can. Zach, we're out of time here. We'd like to really thank you a lot for coming on the show and talking about Haskins. Everybody, please go listen to Strong Opinion Sports on YouTube. That's where you can find Zach. Zach, thanks very much.
Thank you so much, man. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Same to you.
All right, awesome. That was Zac Shomler of Strong Opinion Sports on Dwayne Haskins. Check out more of Zach's stuff on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes, and so much more. Sean here. Glad to be back with you guys out of nowhere.
I'm surprised you didn't have any questions during that interview.
I was
that we
just
did.
silently absorbing it like a sponge. That's what I was doing. No, but strong stuff. Take me through your reactions, because he didn't mince words about Haskins. So what's kind of first and foremost on your minds coming out of that?
I mean, it's a little disconcerting, is what it is. Haskins obviously has some skills, but the flaws that Zach pointed out are disturbing because they're sort of inherent, ingrained flaws. The two things that stood out to me were his processing speed is slow, and he was afraid to get hit. And if you watch the video that Zach was talking about, he showed the clips where Haskins was kind of pulling back and kind of cowering, for lack of a better term. That bothered me a lot.
It bothers me a little bit, but I also, because when we were having him on, I went and watched what he wrote and said about Haskins in college, and the afraid to get hit thing wasn't a thing in college. It was quite the opposite, if anything.
Well, yeah, I kind of thought that maybe that's just him being a rookie in his first game. Because I thought he looked shell-shocked. That was my word. I went back and watched every play of that game, or at least his part of that game, and he just looked shell-shocked. And I hope maybe when he gets more experience that'll go on. But the processing speed thing, that's going to come in time. Because what you saw in Ohio State, what I saw in Ohio State, he can progress through the reads very well. That's what I liked most about him. But if it takes him way too long to do it in the NFL, hopefully that'll get better when he gets a little bit more experience. But that's what they're
speed.
For all you guys who are thinking people are just needlessly degrading the guy, that is what these analysts are talking about when they say he's not ready. This is what they're talking about, and it's not just they're just needlessly picking on Dwayne Haskins. It's those flaws that Zach saw, other quarterback experts see too, and that's what they mean by he's not ready. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think everybody knew he wasn't where he needs to be. He's losing what is essentially an open quarterback competition against people like Colt McCoy and Case Keenum. So obviously, we all knew that he was struggling. He wasn't quite where he needed to be. The question to me is now with Jay Gruden out of the picture, is he going to get more playing time? Is this change going to change things for him? Are we going to see more out of his development? Is he going to be developed worse or better? Is he going to be playing, etc.? Now that this huge change has occurred. So, do you want to...
It's funny you say that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because what Callahan said... By the way, Jay Gruden got fired.
Yeah.
In case you
Newsflash.
are living under a rock, we're going to hit that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But what Callahan said at his opening press conference that really stood out to me was he said he's going to pay attention to Haskins' development and he's going to get him some reps in practice, which is what they should do. Get him a few reps with the starters, work him in slowly. That makes perfect sense to me, and why they weren't doing it before, God only knows, but that makes sense.
Well, and it sounds like they have started that process already. There were reports from their practices the last day or two that, yes, in fact, they're having him they're making sure that the rookies are getting extra reps as starters and getting extra time in with their position coaches, everything that they can do.
Yeah, which is hugely important. So, what do you guys, do you want to talk about Jay Gruden exiting now? Do you want to stay on the topic of Haskins more? I mean, the problem that we have now is that all of these things are so intertwined with each other in terms of the conversation.
I think since the interview took up a good half of the show, we should jump to the Jay Gruden
so let's talk
situation.
Jay.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you guys can go back and listen to the interview again. I mean, we said everything we need to say. Zach did about Haskins. I mean, Jay Gruden getting fired. My instant thought is it's going to make absolutely no difference whatsoever to the long-term direction of the franchise. All that this is doing is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, as the old saying goes. And as long as the same leadership is there, we're going to have the same result, which is they'll hire some coach. They'll find somebody. It might not be the second coming of Vince Lombardi, but somebody's going to line up and take the job, obviously. And in a few years, it's all going to go to hell, and he's going to get shuffled out the door, exactly like what happened to Jay, because this team is rudderless, leadershipless.
That's what they do.
Yeah, and that's what they do. So it's gonna. I mean, for those of you rooting for his demise, employment demise, congratulations, you got it. But it's not gonna matter. It might matter in the short term. It's not gonna matter in the long term.
I mean, you guys know I've always been and still am a Jay Gruden fan overall, because I think that, that was a guy who had a passion for the game of football. And, after 6 years, I think he got worn down here. You could tell in his press conferences and hearing him speak.
He was dead man walking.
The happy-go-lucky attitude Jay used to have through most of the season, he was already in Week 17 by preseason. With his
this year he really
burned
was.
out.
This year he was. What I really felt bad for the guy was when they continually trotted him out there to talk about scandal after scandal, where the owner or the president should be talking about. Instead, they trot Jay out there, and Jay doesn't know what to say, and I don't blame him. That's
Trent
what I felt
Williams situation, the quarterback situation.
I have a lot of sympathy for Jay. I feel bad for him in some ways, but I'll give you two reasons that this could make a difference almost right away. One, play calling. I mean, we said it over and over again. You guys said it last week, and I thought it was a really good point. He knows how to draw up a good play. He knows how to scheme guys open. His issue is with the cadence of his play calling. He panics. He gets away from the run. It becomes one-sided. New person calling plays could make an immediate impact on the team. I'm definitely not saying Super Bowl or even playoffs, but a couple more reliable wins for sure. Two, we've heard a lot about Jay's culture being maybe a bit laid back and a little lax. How many
Sure.
NFL coaches do you know that you would really describe as happy-go-lucky? Really top-level, competent, winning NFL coaches. How many of them can you think of the top of your head? Like, oh yeah, it's a really happy-go-lucky guy, jokes around all the time. Almost none.
I think most of them are tortured.
Exactly, and
I think that's fair.
exactly. That's my point. I think we've heard some reports about Callahan's practices, maybe being a bit more rigorous. These are two things that I think immediately could turn things around. Again, talent problems, injury problems, all kinds of problems. Still, it could be better.
I don't think I would want to have Bill Belichick over for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be horrible.
Not at all.
See, I actually think I've seen enough behind-the-scenes video of Bill Belichick where I think he would actually be fine. He might not say a lot, but he'll be fine.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of mutter. I'm gonna, we're gonna eat this turkey.
I bet he is really funny in a weird, quiet, mumbly, old grump.
All right, I'm just gonna focus on these.
Yeah, I could see that being funny.
That's what he would say. But anyway, who cares about Jay Gruden? But you make, I think, Sean, you make very good points. In the short term, sure, it's going to make a difference. I guess my point here is that we all know what's going to happen because this team is the destroyer of dreams. That's what the front office does, and a better owner, a better team president
true,
would.
Steve, the front office's culture.
It's actually damn good.
Yeah, it's the culture's damn good. Yeah.
It's
By the way,
good.
buy our shirts. We did a culture. This culture's damn good T-shirt, and I know you want it. But point is, give it a couple years. Whoever they hire, and it's going to be the same. I promise you, it's going to be the same unless Bruce Allen is gone, which he's not going anywhere. I don't think.
No, because they think they somehow have a stadium deal all set, and he's claiming that he's in charge of that. And I don't know. That was the thing that broke after the Gruden story. That was where does this even coming from? That they said, they think they're very close to landing a stadium in D.C. I'm like, no one in D.C.'s like city council's okay with this. The federal government's not doing anything. Like, how do they think they're close on this?
I mean, unless there's a development somewhere that we don't know about.
Right.
I mean, they literally, it doesn't matter what the city council thinks if the federal government is not on board with RFK Stadium.
Right.
You know? So it can't possibly be close because the feds have not even sniffed this story. Somebody put that in the appropriations bill or something a while ago. It went absolutely nowhere. You know, maybe it was in committee. It might not even gotten out of committee. But point is, that's just untrue. They're in fantasy land if they think that's about to happen.
Yeah, fair.
Right.
What were you guys' reactions to Jay's quote? My one regret is that we were never able to flex our full offensive muscle in my time here. We never had a fully healthy offensive roster. What were your reactions to him saying that? Do you think that's really true? Do you think... Okay.
I mean, it's true over the last 3 years. If you go back to 2016, the 2 winning seasons Jay had, they were pretty healthy. And he actually had offensive weapons with Garcon and Jackson.
I think Jay is a pretty good coach, to be honest with you. And I think he gets a lot of displaced anger from the fans. You know, and there's valid criticisms of him, like you pointed out, Sean. But in terms, I think he's absolutely right. You know, in the past, it's just been nothing but a parade of injuries. I mean, I follow this injury stuff really, really closely for the game previews and stuff, and it's never ending. And it's big time serious
critical
players,
pieces,
and
right.
He's absolutely right about that. Yeah, he's right. He's 100% right.
Right, and the whole every team has injuries. Yeah, that's true, but like our one of our writers, no one from Tampa, put out a graph that he found, and it's got like every team and the number of games lost. The Redskins lose like twice the number of starter games per year. It's
Alex,
insane.
I mean, I wrote 3,000 words on this and went all the way back to 10 years ago. And what was most interesting about the results of that was that, the Redskins had a ton of injuries and they lose a lot. But there were teams that, like the Patriots, have had a lot of injuries and they still win. So I did do a statistical correlation. I did the math on statistical correlation between injuries and winning percentage, and there wasn't one. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Super Bowl winners were above average in terms of injuries.
Well, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
Which then goes against what Jay's quote was, which is that, don't blame me, we were hurt this whole time. Whereas you're saying, you know what, if the program was well run and well conceptualized, it wouldn't matter all these injuries.
Well, yeah, but the Redskins were more than a standard D. They were almost 2 standard Ds above the norm.
So it was extreme.
Injuries. You know, and it's like, you know, when you build your offense around a tight end that never plays. Maybe that was dumb of them to do that, but that's what they did, you know, and the man, Jordan Reed, never plays, you know, and yet he's the key cog in the offense.
Yeah.
You know, what can you say? You know, and I think when you're talking about, like, the entire offensive line is out, like happened the past 2 years, I mean, there's just not a lot you can do when you're bringing in, like, guys like Austin Howard.
Yeah.
Literally
I think
off the street.
To what? Our 10th interior guard at one point last year?
I don't know. I lost
It was
count.
some ridiculous number like that. We had 8 guys on IR from one position.
Jesus.
I mean, as far as Callahan goes, I mean, I have hope, you know, that again in the short term, I mean, if he's a little tougher on these guys and makes it a little bit more strict and more rigorous, which it seems to be, at least based on one practice.
Plan,
right.
Yeah. So I'm going to have hope that may do the trick. And listen, we're playing some bad teams. We're going to get to the Dolphins in a minute. Dolphins epically suck.
They do.
They are horrible.
But they suck on
horrible.
purpose, and that's the other part of it.
It doesn't matter. They suck. They suck. You know, for our purposes, they really suck. You know, so Callahan may actually win a couple games, whereas Jay didn't, just because of the schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and, you know, the reports out today about the practices, he's got them running sprints and all that stuff. I mean, that's cool. That's great. I like that. They should be doing that stuff. But at the same time, it's just like such a heavy eye roll with the things that the media reports. It's just like, is this you're already pitching? This is the hype machine for Callahan already rolling into full gear here. Like, come on, just let's see a game. Let's see a couple weeks. Like, don't write a story about them running wind sprints at the end of practice. Good Lord.
Hey, there's a group of fans out there who already have Mike Tomlin in the
Yeah,
door,
right,
you know?
right.
To Mike Tomlin,
Yeah, I've
who
heard
signed through 2021 with the Steelers.
Right.
I mean, Mike Tomlin is not going to be the head coach of the Redskins. Just get used to that.
Yeah,
thought.
I completely agree.
No, we're going to trade our first round pick for him. That's the
Can you
plan.
think of a dumber thing to do than that?
No, I can't.
I mean, God. Real quick injuries. This is Wednesday. Josh Harvey Clemens, Wes Martin, Donald Penn, Ross Pierschbacher, Jordan Reed, all DNP. Amazingly enough, Jordan Reed didn't practice. Shocker. Vernon Davis, Morgan Moses, Brandon Scherf, all limited, so that's good because none of those guys, Davis and Scherf, didn't play. And then Cunningham, Dunbar, Ioannidis, Keenum, Norman, Rouillet, Thomas, all on the injury list, but all full practice fully. I'm not even going to bother with the Dolphins practice or Dolphins injury list because you've never heard of any of these guys anyway.
Yeah.
Right. They're all like Arena League level players.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. Well, one thing before we jump right into the Dolphins preview, then, which we do need to do still, but so there's been no official word yet on who's starting right at quarterback on Sunday.
there's rumors that it's going to be Keenum. I saw Rappaport put
Right.
that out.
Well, yeah, okay, so Callahan was non-committal about it and in fact said it may go to Friday
Okay.
Right.
before he decides. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what he
I don't
said.
either. And I mean, just to kind of bring this full circle, I think I'm just repeating you, Steve, but you got to play him. I mean, at this point, I feel like Jay Gruden's been fired. You've got the perfect opportunity to put him in there. What do you have to lose? Callahan is not the head coach now. He's just there in an interim, situation. He put Haskins in there and find out what you have in the guy. This is the perfect time. We had rumors about him not being Jay's guy. That's fine. Jay's gone. I want to see him on Sunday.
Well, the one thing Callahan was explicitly clear about was that Haskins would not play.
But I think that's a huge
so
opportunity lost.
Well, I mean, Sean, you were here through Zac Shomler's interview. I mean,
Right.
You listened to
Yeah. I understand.
You heard all the flaws.
Of
the
course,
guy has.
but look at what's been done without him. Look at what Colt McCoy did last week. Look at what Case Keenum was doing. I mean, the team's not going to win games either way. He only played 14 games as a starter in college. He's going to be a little yippy at first. So find out what you have. The season's basically lost. I don't think anyone has any misconceptions about that. So use it as a glorified tryout and get him some game time and find out what he can do.
I don't disagree with you. I kind of, to me, once they put him in the Giants game, you might as well
Exactly.
played him.
Agreed.
To me, but
Okay, cool.
Well, I don't blame him for not just putting him in a firing squad last week.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
it might have gone. It certainly wouldn't have gone well, but it couldn't have gone a lot worse either. I mean, they scored 7 points off of a gadget play, basically.
Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful play,
it.
though. Okay, let's talk some Dolphins. Battle of the lightweights. The Dolphins are the worst team in the league.
I've been calling it the bottom and bottom.
Battle for the bottom? Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Although
I've
we
been calling
should say to
yeah.
our fans that maybe don't know much about the Dolphins that the Dolphins are basically doing this by design, essentially maintaining draft status, and it's kind of well known that they're tanking. Yeah,
They definitely are. I would say this. Of all the teams I've studied for these game previews over the past 5 seasons, this is the worst one.
Wow.
I've never seen a team where I've done the stat package that has got worse numbers than the 2019 Dolphins. They are epically bad in every way. They're last in the NFL in almost every conceivable category. Points. They're 31st in yards, but they're only ahead of someone who hadn't played as many games as they have. They're 31st in yards per play, passing yards, rushing yards, 32nd in rushing yards, 32nd in rushing yards per attempt. Josh Rosen has the lowest quarterback rating in the NFL for a starter. He was only thrown for 482 yards. He's 57.7
like that, right?
Yeah, 57.7 quarterback rating. They're last in the NFL in time of possession, last in red zone efficiency, 30th in third down conversions. This is an atrociously bad team. Now, the only thing that you could say about them is that they have had a tough schedule.
Yes.
But they've played some of the same teams the Redskins have played and done much worse. The Patriots beat them 43-0.
Right.
The Cowboys beat them 31-6. The Ravens put 59 points up on them. The Chargers, who aren't a good team, put 30 up on them. This is a team that has scored 26 points all year. Okay,
Yeah.
This is a terrible team, and this is the team that would, if this was a soccer team, they would get relegated. They don't belong in the NFL. They're an embarrassment to football, and the Redskins just can't lose this game. I mean, they can. Don't misunderstand me. They can, but they can't lose this game. If they lose this game, all hope is lost.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
They suck. Poor Josh Rosen. I feel like he's just like a plastic bag battered in the wind of the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, think about what's happened to him. Yeah, I mean, like, situation since he got drafted, and this is his second year? Only or something?
His second year.
He got drafted by Arizona. He got, pawned off, got a huge amount of draft capital, ends up on Miami of all places. I mean, this sucks. Poor Josh Rosen.
And remember, like, the Cardinals were last year's the worst team in the NFL. So he's spent 2 years on two different awful, horrible teams with just atrocciously bad offensive
He could very well be a Redskin next year. Very well.
Josh Rosen can play, too, I think.
Here's what will happen. Miami will cut him next year. He'll go to, like, New England or somewhere where there's still a veteran quarterback and just be a backup for a while, and then he'll come back out and maybe be better.
He'll go in relief to a star, have an amazing game on, like, Green Bay, and then sign a huge contract with someone else and be terrible. It'll be something like that.
I mean, if you want some names, because we are previewing the Dolphins here. Kenyon Drake is their leading rusher. He's only averaging 3.5 yards a carry.
Who?
3.6. Kenyon Drake is their 31 attempts, 113 yards. They're two receivers. They're go-to receivers, such as they are. Preston Williams, Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker has some talent. But that having been said, between the two of them, they've only had 25 receptions. I mean, but those are the two guys. You take out Preston Williams and Devontae Parker, which isn't exactly like stopping like, the Showtime Rams, or whatever. Right. Those two guys, they have. So thank you, great Sean Turf. They will have absolutely no passing game whatsoever, 0. So those are the two guys, and then you keep Kenyon Drake from going wild, which seems like a foregone conclusion. And I mean, there's
we, like you said, we should be able to stop this offense. Think about the pressure we were able to get last week against the Patriots. We should be able to get this job done. We have talent on this defense. Something from up on high overhead is not working. But
listen, I mean, the Dolphins have given up 18 sacks in just 4 games.
Money in the bank. Money in the bank for us, who we got 4 sacks last week. I mean, come on, we could do this. How productive will we be against their defense? I guess that would be the equally important question here.
Well, I mean, you heard the numbers Steve put up.
That was just the offense. Yeah, they're that bad on defense, too. 32nd, and they're last in the NFL in points. Last in the NFL in yards per game surrendered. Yards per play. Passing yards per attempt. They're a little bit better in rushing yards. They're only 28th in the NFL in rushing yards, but the reason for that is, I mean, I think, frankly, teams are scoring a lot and quickly on them.
Right.
But they're last in the NFL in generating sacks. They only had 5 sacks all year. Last in red zone defense. Second to last in third down conversions. Defense. They are just awful on both sides of the ball.
And that yards per game is important, too, because then it doesn't matter that they've played one less game than everybody else. That's their averaging. Their defense cannot.
That's average.
Their defense cannot keep up. Okay, I think McLaurin has a big week. I mean, I think this is the week to get our first win. What do you guys think? Is this it? Is this the time that it happens? We get our first win this week?
You hope. You better hope.
You hope.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see a devastated, distressed fan base. Just wait till they lose to this team. God. Here's how bad they are. I went back and looked just before the show. I mean, I didn't study it that in detail, but I went back and looked at the 0-16 Detroit Lions from 10 years ago. They had way better numbers, and they had talent. Yeah, they had much better numbers and talent than this team does. This team has no talent at all. I mean, like, Devontae Parker is your star, okay? It's Devontae Parker. That's your star. They have no talent.
That's like a third receiver on a team,
Yeah, I feel really bad for the fans that have to suffer through this, and I feel bad for Josh Rosen, and the coach who has to pretend like he's, trying to make the most of this mess. It's going to be really awful for the Washington Redskins if they lose this game.
Well, and the weird thing is Miami has a decent coach prospect. He was a New England defensive coordinator for a couple years.
Yeah.
So,
He's a good, decent coach. Here's the one good thing. If you want one positive from the Miami Dolphins, they are kick return defense, number 1 in the NFL.
Wow.
Of course, they've only had 2 returns, which is why they're number 1.
Oh my
all
God.
season. But
This is hilarious. Yeah, I was saying this before the show to Steve and Alex, but for the benefit of the listeners, I had not realized that this is actually one of the only a handful of times that 2 winless teams meet at this point in the season with 9 or more combined losses on the season. So this is even like historically a pathetic game, that we're leading up to here.
Yeah.
So with that thought in mind, you want to do some score predictions?
sure.
All right, sweet. I'll lead us off. Look, we all think we're going to get our first win this week. I definitely think we are. We have a lot of talent. The Dolphins are epically bad. I think we can get a few scores. I'm going to say the Redskins put up 21 this week, and Miami puts up. How many did you say they scored this whole season, Steve? 26 points?
26 points all
so
season.
If I said 10, that'd be insane. So
Yep.
I'm going to say 21 Redskins to 6 Miami.
Okay.
All right.
By the way, the worst stat of all these numbers I'm looking at here, opposing quarterback ratings. Quarterbacks who have played the Miami Dolphins this year have a combined 137.6
Holy
quarterback
moly.
rating. I have never seen a number that high for any team that I've
Play
ever seen.
I mean,
Haskins.
being in the hundreds. Okay, I've seen that before.
Oh, the Redskins are that bad. The Redskins are at 110. They're bad, but I mean, that's just no comparison.
Right.
That's how bad. But okay, so scores. I'm gonna say 20 Redskins. See, the Redskins put up 27 points against the Eagles, right? Wasn't it 27?
Yeah, something like
I
that.
mean, they can score when they really have, when things go well. So I'm gonna say 24. And I'm going to give the Dolphins a touchdown. So 24-7 Redskins.
Awesome.
I think the Miami offense won't do much. I think you guys are right around there, 6-7 points. But I don't see the Redskins offense suddenly booming under Bill Callahan, who wants to run the ball 40 times a game. So I'm seeing it as something like 17-7.
17-7?
Okay. So
We'll
it'll be
win,
like the
but-
most boring game in the history of football. That's
Right.
what you're predicting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see it.
This game is going to be shown in. I haven't pulled up the broadcast market map yet for the preview.
It's not gonna
out
be
yet.
pretty.
Yeah, it's going to be Washington D.C. and Miami, and that's it.
Right.
Jesus Christ. All right.
I'll be shocked if it's even in Miami.
The people in Miami have a lot of things that they could be doing other than watching horrible football. So yeah, that might be true.
All right, well, this one will probably be pretty fun to recap, so I'm looking forward to that one. We will cut this one off here for the evening, but we will come back next week to talk about Callahan's debut as interim head coach with the Redskins. Until then, have a great week, and we will see you next time. Take care.
All right, later.